Hi, my name's Margaret Sinclair and I got COVID in April of 2020 and it's now July 2021 and I've had long COVID ever since. Now I'm really lucky, I am a therapist and I do various therapies, usually working with menopausal women with a variety of different therapies. And I noticed as I was going through long COVID that one of my biggest symptoms was anxiety, fatigue, and overwhelm and brain fog. And interestingly enough, that is pretty much the similar kind of things that I deal with and help women with every single day. So I started using some of the therapies that I used for other women and myself on my long COVID symptoms. And one of them really helped with the anxiety and overwhelm. So I thought I would really love to share it with everybody else who's pretty much going through the same thing that I am. Now, I'm going to talk to you today about how to do something called emotional freedom technique. So EFT or tapping therapies. When I was first taught this, I thought the person was absolutely barking because they told me that by tapping a variety of points on my face, I would help get rid of my anxiety. And this was years ago. And I thankfully trusted them and they taught me an amazing technique which can really be used to help all sorts of feelings and emotions. And I think it's been really fundamental in keeping me sane, essentially, through this long COVID. So I would like to teach you to just do this really simple technique. Now, I'm going to teach you my way. There are lots of different little ways. If you have a look on the internet, there'll be lots of different tips and techniques. There is no right or wrong answer. Every single one of them works and every single one of them would really help you. So to do this, there are two parts to it. The first part is a phrase which you'll be saying, and the second part is the tapping that you'll be doing. Now I'm going to teach you how to do the tapping first, and I'd really like for you to do it with me because if you do something, it's easier to remember. So it's really simple and it only takes a couple of minutes, I promise. So do this with me. So the first point you're going to use is called the karate point, and it's part way between where your wrist will flex and your knuckles do. So it's halfway here. It's called the karate point. That's the first point you'll tap, and use two fingers and you gently but firmly tap. Now you shouldn't be causing any pain. This is the first point we'll use. The next point we'll use is just on the inside of the eyebrow, and that's the next point we use. Then we go to the outside of the eye, about 1 centimetre away, here. The next point we'll use is underneath the eye, which is here. Now if it hurts, be lighter, it really shouldn't hurt. The next point is between the lip and the nose, so you're going to go there. The next point is between the lip and the chin, so in that little dent is great. The next point is your clavicle or your collarbone, which comes across here. It's just at the end of it, so if you were to talk while doing it, it would kind of go a bit funny. The next point is kind of the bra line, so if you're a woman, you know exactly where it is. If you're a man, if your armpit is here, the point you tap is here. So it will be here, on the side of your ribs. And then you finish by tapping the karate point, which again is halfway between here and here. So that is the tapping routine. And we'll go over it again, don't worry. I know with COVID, things don't stick. That's why I've done a video, so you can watch it as many times as you want. Now, the next thing you need to do is create what we call a phrase. Now, half of this phrase will always be the same. The first half is what changes. Now, I use a system where we use past tense. So let's go with anxiety because that is one of the biggest symptoms that most people seem to have. So what you will do is your phrase will go, even though I had anxiety. The last phrase is, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Now, if you don't want to say love, you can say like or respect. Absolutely fine. Whatever fits with you is really important. But what you're doing is you're acknowledging your emotion and you're saying it's okay. And here's the thing about COVID. How many times do we feel guilty or stressed or angry or frustrated because we've just been put in this situation through no fault of our own? Those are really valid emotions and feelings. The thing is, they're not very useful. And actually they can be detrimental because the amount of energy we can pour into that can take away from the energy that we're using to get better and heal. So this technique can be used for all of those feelings and emotions, and I'll talk a little bit after I've told you how to do it, but we're going to start with anxiety. So you say, even though I had anxiety or I felt anxious, all in the past, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And that's it. That's your phrase. It's really simple. You can remove anxiety and put in stress. You can remove anxiety and put in fear. You can put anything you want in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the routine, and I'm going to show you how simple it is. I know it can seem a bit weird with the tapping, but don't worry, you really can't do it wrong. It doesn't matter if you do it on your left or your right, you can't really do it wrong. So my phrase is going to be, even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to score how anxious I am before I start. Now this is really important because it shows you how far you are developing and going. Now I use a minus scale. 0 is nothing really. Minus is getting worse. Positive is happy stuff. So let's say if I started off with a -8 and I went through the routine and I went down to maybe a -6 and I went through the routine. It might take a couple of goes to get down to a -3, but I can tell you going from a -8 to a -3 is a huge change in my day. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So we're going to say what level our anxiety or fear or emotions are. And then we literally, starting with the karate chop, we say it twice here. Once, 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 and twice. So I hope you're going to go through this with me, choosing whatever it is that you're feeling right now. So, even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then just take a nice deep breath and relax. And that really is all there is to it. Usually takes a couple of goes round to get that level nice and low. But I found with long COVID, it really just has kept me sane. It really has kept me sane. The anxiety, the fear, the overwhelm, that am I ever going to get better? It just bubbles up and it just becomes so huge. And it's really not helpful. Really, really not helpful. So I found this really, really beneficial. Now, sometimes we can go around with the anxiety and we don't get down below maybe a -5. Sometimes we need to be a little bit more specific. Sometimes it's that top layer we take off and then it's actually, I'm anxious about going to the doctor. So even though I was anxious about going to the doctor, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So sometimes there are layers to it and you can work your way through. And I just would really advise that this is something you practice every day. And actually, this is something I tell a lot of people to do every day, is if you practice it every day, when you need it, you know exactly what you've got to do. But if you haven't done it for a few days, or you haven't watched this video for a few days and you suddenly think, oh, I want to do that, what was the tapping? You won't remember, it's fine. But what I say is that spend a couple of minutes every day just tapping on your feelings and emotions of the day. And I have felt that so, so beneficial. I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm upset, I'm disappointed, I'm scared, and all of those things. And by tapping on them every single day, I have felt them just get smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where they are really copable, because the bills still need paying at the end of the month. Our kids still need looking after. We've got responsibilities. We've got things that we need to do. And if we can't work, or we can't work enough for our bosses, or we can't take care of our kids, it is so overwhelming and so hard. And the last thing we need are these feelings of overwhelm and shame and guilt just overwhelming us. And if we can, it's like taking a dial on an old-fashioned stereo and turning it down. If we can turn it down, it's much easier to deal with. And then we've got more energy for everything else. So I would say practice this every day and then use it when you need it. Now, sometimes it just isn't possible to sit there doing this because there's other people around, and that's okay. There's a simple, easy option to do that just looks like you're fiddling with your hands. So rather than the usual technique, we use the same phrase and we can say it in our heads. It doesn't have to be outside. And we start and finish with the karate chop as usual. And then what we do is we tap on the fingers. Now, technically the points are on the fingers away from the thumb. So just by here, just by here, and just by here, and just by here. So you literally would just tap as you're going around like this. But the thing is, if you're a bit anxious and you're a bit overwhelmed, it's quite hard if you sort of which fingers was it, what side. So I always just tell people to just tap like this. And it's not going to be any more positive or negative than just tapping one point. You just tap through. So I'm going to give you the example of anxiety again. So even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I felt anxious, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And you can do that in your lap, you can do it behind your back. It's so easy to do. And the thing is, once you've been doing it for a little while, your brain associates tapping with calm. So even if you're just in a situation, you just start tapping your fingers, you'll instantly start to feel calmer. And I've just found this technique hugely beneficial for myself, and I wanted to share with my friends around the world who are also suffering from long COVID.